Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today I'm taking a look at a very popular series of games, and that is the West Kingdom Trilogy, designed by S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips, with art done by the Miko. If you watch this channel at all, you probably already know that I love all three of these games. And all three of these games are vastly different, but they're all set in the same universe. So what I want to do is take a closer look, overview of each of these games, and then we'll come back up to the table and have a discussion about which games I like the best. So first, let's take a look at Architects of the West Kingdom. Architects is a fast-paced worker placement game where players are competing against each other, trying to build different structures along with working on the cathedral. You can really tell right from the start this isn't a normal worker placement game because you actually start off with 20 workers instead of your normal 3 or 4. Also, the majority of the spots on the board can have an unlimited number of workers placed there, and even a same player can go to a spot that they already have a worker, and that spot's action now becomes even more powerful. You are going to have to be careful though. If someone notices how powerful that spot has become for you, they can swoop in and send your workers to jail. But you can quickly retrieve your workers back, so it isn't the worst thing in the world if that happens. So you will have to be moving around the board, managing your resources to quickly build your structures and help out with the cathedral. The game will end after so many of your workers end in the guild hall from building these structures. The whole game takes about 1 hour. Let's now take a look at the second game of the series, Paladins of the West Kingdom. Paladins is also a worker placement game, but much different than Architects. In Paladins, each round you will get 6 workers, and all the workers have colors on them, which will dictate where you can place them on the board. Certain spots on the board only allow you to place certain colored workers there unless you have that purple wild worker. In this game, you will be building up walls and outposts, converting troops, fighting off attackers, and sending out monks. Each round you will get the help of a paladin of your choosing to give you unique abilities for that round. And you're doing this all in the name of racing up point tracks for faith, strength, and influence. This game has a ton of combo capabilities. A lot of times when you do one action, it will gain you resources or workers in order to do more actions in the future. The game will end once the 7th round is over, and this is about a 2-hour game. Next, let's jump to the last installment of this game series, Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Viscounts is a rondel-style game that uses hand management and deck building. You will be moving around this wheel-based board in order to trade for goods, construct buildings, work in the castle, obtain manuscripts, and start acquiring deeds for new land. How well you can perform each of these actions is based on this tableau of sliding townsfolk cards that are on your player board. Each turn, your townsfolk will slide down and eventually drop off the board and be replaced by a new card that you choose from your hand of cards. You will also be recruiting new and more powerful townsfolk to put into your deck, making it better fit for the strategy you are trying to accomplish. Viscounts, just like Paladins, is a very combo-based game, and you are trying to synergize your deck to the strategy you are chasing after. The game ends after a certain amount of debt or deed cards have been given out, and the player with the highest point total from all their actions wins. This game time lands in between Architects and Paladins with about an hour and a half of gameplay. Let's head back up and talk a little bit more about these games. So first, what I want to talk about is the weight of each of these games. I think everybody would probably agree that Architects is the lightest of these games. I would say this kind of falls between a light and a medium game, almost like a next step to a gateway game. You know, you want to do your gateway worker placement game. This would be a nice next step into worker placement. So yeah, I think it kind of falls in between that light and medium game. Next, I would say that Viscounts is the next heaviest. And I think that kind of falls in between the medium and heavy weight games. And one thing I had trouble with Viscounts is the iconography. There is a ton of iconography in all of these games. But for some reason, Viscounts, I kept having to look in the rulebook and checking what each of these icons meant. But after a few plays, you get into it and realize. Then Paladins would be the heaviest to me, and I would say this is a heavy game. There's a lot of moving parts. There's sliding cards. There's a lot of little intricate rules that you should know about. And it's a heavy game, but after you play it once or twice, it definitely becomes a lot easier. And now about the player count. What do I prefer each of these games at for player counts? Let's start with Architects. This is the game that I actually would prefer more players. I don't shy away from that high player count. 4, 5, 6 if you have the expansion. This game is very fast paced, and I think the true spirit of this game comes out when you have a higher player count. It's just so fast, and you're not going to have that much time between your turns because each of your turns takes so fast. It's just a fast game. You're putting out a worker, going to the wood spot, getting stone. Everybody usually knows what they're going to be doing for the next 4 or 5 turns probably. So it's just really fast. You might have only a minute between your turns. So there's not a ton of downtime. So this is a game, one of the few games that I prefer almost max player count. Next, Paladins. This is a game that I definitely prefer at 2 players. This is a very kind of thinky, crunchy game. So I would like it at 2 players because then it just runs smoother. If you have 3, 4 players, you're going to have quite a bit of downtime in between your turns. 2 players works really good because I can take my turn, and then on that player's turn, while they're doing that, I can think about my turn, and by the time it comes back to me, I probably thought about exactly what I'm going to be doing. Because this is a game that you're not only going to think about what you're going to do this turn, you are going to have to try to plan out your turns for the next 3 or 4 turns, probably. This is an efficiency engine type of game. You're going to have to be as efficient as possible, so you have to have a lot of planning. So Paladins definitely has 2 as my preferred player count. Now, Viscounts is, again, probably 2, maybe 3. I don't really like it at 4, but 2 or 3 is my sweet spot for this game. Because it's not as fast as Architects, but not as slow as Paladins. In Viscounts, on your turn, there's several steps on your turns, because you're going to be sliding your card off the board, picking a new card to replace that card, then moving your Viscount around that board, and then doing that action, and then probably hiring a townsfolk as well. And then you're probably going to have some combo things that are happening in between there. So I think Viscount's sweet spot is 2 or 3. And since we're talking about player count, we should talk about the solo mode as well, which I've played all of these games several times in the solo mode. So which one of these games do I like the best? I won't go into too much detail of these games, but know that each of these games uses what they call a scheme deck. And that scheme deck basically simulates what an opponent would be doing. So you're going to be flipping over a card, and then that dictates what action the AI will be taking. My favorite game out of the series for solo play is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. And they're all really well done, but I really like the solo mode for this. And one thing that's neat about the solo mode for Viscounts is that there's 4 different options for the AI that you can choose to play against. And these AIs are going to be specialized in certain things. One AI is specialized in the building structures. One might be writing the manuscripts. And you choose which opponent that you would like to play against. So that kind of brings that replayability for it. And why I chose that one over Architects is Architects, like I said, I like it high player count. The solo game just simulates kind of like a 2-player game. So it's really good. I still like it. I still play it a bunch. But it's just Viscounts is better to me. And why Paladins wasn't my favorite, but still very good, is because for solo games, I usually like a quick, fast game with not a lot of setup. Paladins is a beast to set up. So and take down as well. So if I'm doing a solo mode, I'm probably not going to choose Paladins as often as the other 2, but it's still really good. One thing with the Paladins, you're going to be flipping over a card, and there's a lot of moving parts. You know, you got to do this to do that, and then that. So it kind of detracts from your turn, but like I said, all of them are really well done. So bravo on that. Now let's do a pros and cons list for each of these games, starting off with Architects. Now the pro for Architects definitely for me is the fast-paced nature of this game. The turns are so fast and snappy that there's not a lot of downtime with this. You know what you're going to be doing for a while, so the turns are just fast. That's the main pro for me for this game. The con would be that for strategy, the cards are going to kind of dictate what you should be doing. Like if you get a building card and you need 3 wood, 2 stone, a gold, you know that you got to go up there, you need to get the stone, you need to go to the wood spot, and you know which townsfolk you want to hire to help you accomplish these goals. So the cards kind of dictate what your strategy should be for the game. It's not a huge con, but just know about that. Now, so go to Paladins, the pro of this game. For pros, this is the crunchiest of this game. This gives you that good brain burning feel that you like, that efficiency engine that I really like in games. This has that in abundance. I love it about it. And to be honest, this game might give me the most satisfaction out of all 3 of these games when I'm playing it, because of that feeling. I just feel good while I'm playing it and after I'm playing it. Now the con for Paladins would be the setup, the takedown. This is a beast to teach. It's a beast to set up. It's a beast to tear down. It's a big, because you have your own player board, then you also have a big main board, and it's going to take up a big space. So be prepared for that. Moving on to Viscounts. The pro for Viscounts is kind of the opposite for the con of Architects. In Viscounts, you can choose at the very beginning, before you even play the game, what your strategy would be. Like maybe you want to concentrate on buildings this time. Maybe you want to concentrate on putting people into the castle. You can choose that strategy from the get-go and then build your deck around that strategy. So you can kind of just go for a certain strategy. You're not dictated. The game's not telling you which strategy to go for. The con of that game is this is a deck builder, but it's a slow deck builder because you're only playing 1 card at a time rather than your normal deck builders that play 5. So the cards that you do get, you're probably only going to play them a few times. You're only going to cycle through your deck a couple times. So it's not a huge deal, but you're not going to, even sometimes you buy a player or a townsfolk and you're like, that I'll never get to play them. But yes, those are the pros and cons of each of these games for myself. Now for the most important part of the video probably. How do I rank these games? What is my least favorite? What's my favorite? So let's start at number 3. What's my least favorite of the series? Keeping in mind, I like them all, so it doesn't really matter. My number 3 would be Viscounts of the West Kingdom. And that's saying a lot that this is my least favorite of the 3, because I said the solo mode for Viscounts is my favorite, and that's probably what I'm going to be playing 50% of the time as far as multiplayer versus solo, you know. So yeah, Viscounts, my least favorite, still very good. Next would be Paladins of the West Kingdom. That's my second favorite of the series. It's an amazing game, and right when I did play this game, I played it and I was talking to my friend. I'm like, I think I like this better than Architects, and we played it a few times that week, and then played it another time the next month, and then 3 months later we played it again, and then 6 months later we played it again. And so it's why it's number 2 and not number 1 is because it's kind of hard to get to the table. I just played it yesterday for the first time in about 6-7 months. I played the solo mode again, and I really liked it. But I had to relearn the entire game, and it was kind of a pain to do it. But it's such a good game, and like I said, it might be the most satisfying to play out of all 3 of these. It's really great. And Architects of the West Kingdom is obviously my favorite of the series, and it's the best of the West in my opinion. It's the easiest to get to the table. Out of all 3 of these games, I've played Architects probably close to 30 times, where I've played Paladins and Viscounts probably around 10 times each. So that might play a factor into it. Another factor that goes into it is Architects has an expansion, Age of Artisan, which kind of brings up the complexity of Lit and adds another player that you can play with. It's It's a great expansion. If you like Architects, I highly recommend the expansion as well. So it kind of has an unfair advantage because it's got an expansion already. The other two don't, but they both have expansions planned. Paladins actually has a big box and a expansion that I kickstarted a while back, so hopefully I get those soon, which I'm very excited about. So yes, Architects to me is the best of the West. What do you guys think about that? Tell me in the comments below. What's your favorite of the series? There is no wrong answer for this, in my opinion. If you like Viscounts the best, you're probably right. If you like Paladins the best, you're probably right. But you're probably right if you like Architects the best too. So, yeah, just let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the series as a whole, even. And I think that will wrap up this video. That will adjourn this meeting. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. And as always, I hope you all have an amazing day, and take care, everyone.